The Gotham City Sirens are an informal group of 3 villains, anti-villains, or even anti-heroes if you want to see them that way today, who are more or less out for themselves. They'll do good things and bad things, ethical and unethical. They'll even partake in fighting many of Batman's rogues gallery. But I was thinking, what if other major cities and locations in the DC universe had their own version of the Gotham City Sirens? What would they look like, and which characters would be part of the team? So I have 5 separate teams for different locations. Each one of these characters has to have some sort of connection and dependence on these cities, the way that Catwoman, Harley, and Poison Ivy do to Gotham. So with that being said, let's get into the first city. Starting with Metropolis, I believe their city sirens would be Livewire, Silver Banshee, and Mercy Graves. Starting with Livewire, she fits the Harley Quinn role. She has the unpredictable and literally electric personality. She adds raw power to the group, and she brings the flash and attention-grabbing actions that Harley usually would. She would definitely start the problems that the rest of the group would have no choice but to get involved in. For Silver Banshee, through her high intensity and supernatural power, she fits the Poison Ivy role. Even though they're out to protect themselves in an untamed aspect, Banshee could attempt to clear Metropolis from some of its corruption or something personal to her through a more destructive way, channeling Poison Ivy's passion for what she truly cares about and cares for. As for Mercy Graves, I understand this might not have been the direction others went in, but hear me out here. After years of working with Lex Luthor, she has become extremely proficient in many skills, especially when it comes to connections and knowledge into the inner workings of Metropolis. Whether it's through legal channels or illegal channels, she knows exactly who to contact, and her resources would be plentiful. Along with her long history of obtaining LexCorp and other Metropolis secrets, she's a highly skilled combatant and can easily hold her own. She would easily be the Catwoman role. I think the big thing that this team would particularly be battling is Lex Luthor and the corruption that he has kind of poured onto Metropolis over the years. I believe he would put a lot of attention and kind of doubt into Mercy, such as like, you betrayed me, why would you have left my side? You left me for these 2 other girls who are only going to put a cap on your future and hold down your potential. Pretty foolish idea. And I think for them, whereas things might be unclear at the beginning, as time goes on, it would become clear that their bane is in fact Lex and or LexCorp, and it's basically about how they would fight him off. Now we move over into Central City, and this city sirens consists of Golden Glider, Magenta, and Killer Frost. Now, I know Killer Frost at her inception is a Firestorm villain, but over the years, she's really been implemented into the Flash mythos, especially due to the TV show. Now, I needed a 3rd female character that really fit the mold of the Flash world and Central City, so I decided to fall upon her. Starting with Golden Glider, she's very flashy, confident, and all while committing crimes with a certain flair to her, and that brings her into filling the Harley Quinn role. She's not as crazy or as insane as Harley, but she does have certain theatrics to her that feel similar enough. She is the one that would more than likely bring in the jobs and the excitement to even be a team in the first place. When you look at Magenta, she's a magnetic force that is often manipulated by her emotions. She could seek to reshape Central City in her image from the tunnel vision memories that she scarcely receives, trying to remember a life she no longer has. And with her extreme methods and willing to do things that many wouldn't to reach her goals, that misplaced passion makes her fit for the Poison Ivy role. And then for Killer Frost, she's a villain reformed to a hero, much like Catwoman, driven by her desire to obtain personal resources and get what she wants. Her actions can be similar to Catwoman. She's usually willing to bend the rules for her own benefit and act on her own terms, But in terms of her actual powers, freezing opponents, creating ice slides and structures, she can be evasive and hard to follow, allowing her to fill the Catwoman role. I think the main goal of this team would actually be these three girls finding each other at the right time. They're all villains in their own misunderstood ways, and in many ways, they don't even want to be classified as villains anymore. I think this team is much more about self-discovery and truth behind who they are as people, rather than having some sort of arch enemy that brings them all together. This team might even also be a little mini therapy session for all three characters, coming together with all the same mindsets, wanting to change their lives and the receptions that the world and their city has on them, and how they do so in return. Obviously, a villain or villains would be thrown into a lot of their own personal conflict, but it would be about how Golden Glider, Magenta, and Killer Frost are no longer looked at as villains, and they have actually found a way to reform. Now into Star City. The Sirens here are Cupid, China White, and Black Canary. I know that Black Canary is not a villain and that this group should consist of characters who are at the very least are known to be villains more than heroes, but I do have my reason for it. Starting with Cupid, she's completely unhinged and obsessed with Green Arrow. She's definitely more of a bold choice when you consider her very disturbed nature. However, if you wanted to take a look at how much she loves Green Arrow, perhaps the reason for her being on this team is to show her worth to him by doing more or less good, or simply being a better person than she has been before. Although her violent methods would need to take a step back, but her chaotic personality makes her fit for the Harley Quinn role. As for China White, she's deeply connected to the criminal underworld of Star City and a somewhat ruthless leader. This would be to create a strained alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. This could either be to lead her into becoming a reformed villain or a necessary evil, allowing her to control more of Star City's underworld by removing even worse people than her. Her no-nonsense attitude and self-serving personality makes her fit for the Poison Ivy role. As for Black Canary, she could be the character that is reforming China and Cupid, setting them down a heroic path, or we could possibly be seeing in early stages of Black Canary where she is not the full-fledged hero we know her to be. Regardless, her skills as one of the best martial artists in the DC universe and her commitment to helping those less fortunate is key here. Whereas going after mobs and gangs and stealing from the corrupt would be their goal, she would be doing it on a more justice type of a basis. She would be the morality of the group and would have the best grasp of right and wrong, filling in for Catwoman's role. This team is going to live and die depending on how Black Canary is capable of handling it. If she's capable of keeping a grasp on Cupid and China White, she might actually be able to change these characters for the better. Or at the end of the day, whatever main goal they've decided they needed to accomplish with one another, when it is completed, these three characters might simply go their own ways and resort back to being who they were before, especially Cupid and China White. As I kind of alluded to earlier, this could be a situation where maybe the underworld of Star City is being led by people or a very particular person who is just this utmost evil amongst the city. And they're doing damage that really cannot be reciprocated. It has to come down to them actually stopping this character. And I kind of feel that the overall arcing villain of this team would be Vertigo. I think they would come to terms that China White may be the lesser of two evils. And if Black Canary can help this team stop Vertigo and put China White into power, it still won't be great because there will be crime in Star City at a high level, but it will be much more controlled, structured, and safer than having someone like Vertigo in line. So this is definitely a temporary alliance. I think it would be very hard for Black Canary to keep them in line and change their ways, but you never know. It could be possible. Now, I actually decided to go into Themyscira. This Sirens team consists of Eris, Cheetah, and Artemis. Once again, Artemis being a little more on the hero side, but I still think she has a place to fit in here. For Eris, she makes this team extremely powerful, considering she is an old god. She also loves to meddle with Wonder Woman, so from this instance, we need to use her as more of a nuisance who just likes to put herself in the middle of things and have fun. The team would never truly know what she's doing here, but they would at least know she wants to be part of it. Her somewhat smug personality and unpredictable nature could make her fit for the role of Harley Quinn. As for Cheetah, she is a powerful force of nature intertwined with an ancient primal connection. She fills in for Poison Ivy. She brings a wild and volatile power that represents the magical side of the Amazons. She would be in this team mainly for something she believes will benefit her in the long run, and since she has taken a neutral stance in heroism villainism recently, she could force herself to work with others. Then for Artemis, very independent and highly skilled in melee combat, Artemis brings a rather untraditional approach to Amazonians. She's basically unwavered in what she believes in and what she fights for, which can make her a reliable ally, but a dangerous opponent. Through her self-reliance, she's also capable of morally making the right or the best decision, making her the best fit for Catwoman. Now, this team is really powerful, and don't get me wrong, Cheetah and Artemis brings in that power, but it is Eris that is pretty much taking the capped potential off this team and throwing it out the window. Now, it's to be expected if you're gonna have a Themyscira style team, they're going to be super powerful. But of course, once you throw in an old god, the potential of competition is very thin. Now, I think the main goal of this team would be some dark and ancient magic that is potentially threatening Themyscira. And these three characters would have to journey from one end of the island all the way to the other, seeking out where the source of this power could be coming from and putting a stop to it. I imagine in this instance, Themyscira would need to be huge as well, because I picture these three characters going on a Lord of the Rings type of adventure. They go through many different trials, ancient areas and kingdoms of Paradise Island, finding different tribes and maybe even cults of women on the island as well. As I'm talking about this and even thinking about it now, it's just making me way too excited for that Wonder Woman game we're never gonna get. So that's great. But Artemis could be doing this to show her loyalty to the Amazonian people and to show her appreciation of who she is. She's proud to be an Amazon. For Cheetah, it could be to show that she has changed, that she has indeed reformed, even though she still has a little bit of a dark side to her. For Eris, who really knows? It's up in the open. It could be for no reason at all. She's an old god. Does she really need a reason? Not really. Or it could be because she wants this power for herself. Maybe she knows the source of the magic, but she doesn't know where it's coming from, in which she would become their villain by the end of the story. Maybe Eris is disguising herself as another Amazonian warrior. As an old god, and especially with the powers she has, she does have telepathy, illusion casting, and she's very good at deception. I wouldn't put it past her to make people think she is somebody else, or to make them see her as somebody else. Regardless, this would be a team of characters who over time would get to know each other and learn more about one another as the journey goes forward. But the big question is by the end of the story, would it be Eris who is the main villain they have to worry about, or is it someone potentially even more dangerous lurking somewhere on the Amazonian island? Now, last for this video, but certainly not least, I decided to go with Bludhaven. The Sirens team for this city is Tarantula, Lady Vic, and Lady Shiva. This team would probably consist of the worst relationships between the three women, but this is what I got. For Tarantula, she's a former FBI agent who changed her approach from justice to brutality. Known for doing one of the worst things you can do to a human being, to Nightwing, she's crossed lines some would never even think of doing. And whereas her chaos and unhinged nature is not the same as Harley Quinn, she still has the traits to fill in for her role. For Lady Vic, she's a cold-blooded and ruthless assassin. She constantly plagues Bludhaven through her tenacious violence. She has no powers to relate to Poison Ivy, but her personality, cold demeanor, arsenal of vast weaponry, and fierce combat makes her the narrowly minded, focused member of the group who only prioritizes her work. Now for Lady Shiva, this team is already extremely skilled in martial arts, but when you add Shiva, it now makes them physically nearly impossible to top. Bringing her unmatched skill and perfection through everything she does, she can be the Catwoman role in terms of acting alone, but now is resorting to a team that is focused on mass assassinations or possibly even keeping assassinations from happening. Although more on the bad side than good, she is still more than likely the most morally conscious member here, allowing her to potentially lead this team as well. I think these characters are similar in certain ways, but are so different in many other ways. I'm not sure how viable this team could really be and how long they could last. I don't think this particular Sirens team would be these three characters coming together out of their own design. It wouldn't be something they would necessarily want to do. These characters need to be hired and then just placed amongst a team with one another in which they're called the Sirens. And like I made mention in Shiva's explanation, this could be a group of characters who are hired to hunt down specific people and assassinate them, or they could be hired by that person to protect them from assassinations and other such hitmen. But what I could see are these characters getting manipulated into whatever they have been hired for. We could be thinking Blockbuster here. When everything is all said and done and the job they do comes to an end, whether they've completed it or turned their back on the person who hired them, these women could all look at each other and say, we rather work alone, we rather do our own thing, but working with each other wasn't all that bad. And maybe if the time is right, the money is good, and the reasons are there, we'll come back and work together again because we clearly do good work. That, in my opinion, is the good way of looking at how this team would potentially operate. The bad way is these characters come together and probably kill one another, and Lady Shiva more than likely standing on top. So there you go, 5 different Sirens teams if they took place in other cities. If I had to give my top 5 in order from favorite to least favorite, I would have to go the Themysciran Sirens, then Metropolis, then maybe Central City, Star City, and finally Bludhaven. There's something I really like about the Themyscira version where they go on this huge journey and adventure with one another and they start uncovering Amazonian secrets that have maybe been laid buried for thousands of years. And I kind of like the Metropolis one because those characters feel as if they would be doing good through bad actions. So you guys let me know in the comments below which one here is your favorite, and also give me your Sirens characters for some of the cities I did mention here and for some of the cities that I did not get around to. That is all I have for you on this video, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.